So naval warfare, people would, the tactics was two ships would come close to each other. Pirates would try and loot ships, right? So they come close to each other, and then the tactics was grapple and board. So you have to jump over to the ship, and then you're fighting with knives, right? The invention of the cannon changed everything, and it triggered an arms race. Why? Because imagine your cannon can fire 1% longer, has a 1% longer range than my cannon. But that 1% advantage is 100% win rate guaranteed, because you are out of range, but you hit all other ships, right? So there is you just need to continuously invest in trying out different variables, what's predictive, trying some experiments, trying A/B tests, seeing how can you lower friction, but also get incremental predictive power to be able to weed out the bads, which is the customers who will not pay you back, and accept as many goods as possible.
Awesome. We're live with yet another edition on our CPO series. Today, we're very, very happy to be joined by Ashwin Sekar, who is currently the Chief Product and Technical Officer at InCred Financial Services. He is an alumni of IIT Madras. He's been in this space for over 17 years, developing, managing, and launching some amazing products that we're going to be chatting about more today. And especially if you are a fintech enthusiast, I can assure you this one's going to be really interesting for you. He's also very, very passionate about sustainable living, done a bunch of things at the grassroots level. So if you are interested, I know all of us lead very busy lives, but if you are interested on how you can make a small dent, but just by your contribution, stay tuned. We are going to be covering some really practical ways you can implement this in your daily lives. But to kickstart, Ashwin, first of all, welcome to this pod. Super excited to chat with you today.
Thank you, Suhas, and thanks to the product folks for having me. Really appreciate it.
Awesome. Ashwin, we're going to kick this off on a little bit of a light note. On the InCred website, we noticed Rahul Dravid is your brand ambassador. We're all huge fans. So just very, very curious to know, have you ever gotten a chance to meet him? And if yes, what is the experience like?
Yes. So I have met him twice, actually. So I'm a huge Rahul Dravid fan, probably dating myself, but I have seen his debut innings in Lords. I don't know if you guys were even born back then, but 1996 at Lords, he scored 95. And so since then, I have been a fan. So in 2011, I actually saw him score a century at Lords. I was there at Lords, so that was a fun experience. Got to shake his hands, and that was amazing. One thing I noticed is he has a very firm handshake.
Okay.
And then with InCred, because he's a brand ambassador, we got an opportunity he did a coaching clinic. I think it was called Super Over with Rahul Dravid. And it was amazing. 3 hours, where 1 hour was people could ask him questions. There were about 25, 30 people who got the chance. And after that, for 2 hours, he was doing a coaching clinic in his Rahul Dravid and Prakash Padukone Performance Center, outskirts of Bangalore. So I was batting. He said good stance, so that was like amazing. and then
wow, dude, I'm a huge fan. So super jealous of you. But Ashwin, was this like a perk of working at InCred that you get to meet Rahul Dravid?
Yeah, best day of my life. So and my colleague, he was bowling and Rahul Dravid kind of touched him and corrected his stance.
Oh.
And he was threatening not to shower, saying I have Rahul Dravid's DNA on me now.
Oh, wow. Even I've played cricket for like over a decade of my life, trying to get into like the Ranji side. That didn't happen, but huge Rahul Dravid fan. Like growing up in Karnataka, I think he is an idol for a lot of us. So that is amazing. Since you're also passionate about cricket, are you following the IPL? Any favorites on who's going to make it to the final this year?
I was living in Chennai for so long, and I'm a big Dhoni fan as well. So I'm hoping CSK and Rajasthan Royals. Rajasthan Royals because of the Dravid connection, and then CSK because of Dhoni. Probably his last season, right? So
nice.
Let's see if that happens.
Awesome. Rooting. I think let's see if CSK RR comes to the finals. Then we'll hopefully catch the game together. And let's hope. I think the game's going to be... It's not going to be in Chennai, right? I think the finals in Ahmedabad or Bombay.
Finals in Ahmedabad. Yeah. Yesterday's
Ahmedabad,
5-6s was nice as well. So Rinku Singh.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. But jumping right into the meat, I think this is super fun to kick this pod off. But like we mentioned earlier, I think you've had some extensive experience over a decade and a half now, especially very very deep on the fintech side. Before I go deeper into the fintech side of things, one thing I'd love to know is, as your role as a chief product officer today, most of your time I think would be spent on one, figuring out, okay, hey, are we on the right track as a product company? And two, how do I get the best people to build our stuff here, right? Let's take the second point first. While identifying and building strong teams, what are some attributes or qualities that you've framed in your mind, especially while hiring these folks on, these are the qualities that are necessary to become a part of a very high performing product team?
Sure. Really good question. I mean, at the junior level, so you're right. A lot of my job is to hire the right people and then kind of set up the ecosystem where they're not getting blocked and they're able to execute, they're able to kind of express themselves. So hiring really good people and then allowing them to, empowering them, allowing them to kind of run with it is exactly what we're trying to do. And that's a large part of my job. With respect to skills which we are looking for, and of course I'm not going to talk about hard skills. Your question said, what is the top 1%? If you want to distill it down very, very simply, there are two things which I'm looking for. One is kind of intellectual curiosity. Are you curious? Do you ask questions? Do you, in general, are you able to display kind of intellectual curiosity? There are multiple ways in which you can find out, right? When you're having a conversation, is this individual curious? And the second is grit and perseverance. You will inevitably run into difficulties, run into challenges. Do you give up at the first sign of trouble? Or do you have the grit to kind of keep going, find ways to overcome it, showcase the ownership and high agency to keep going and deliver results? So, fundamentally, those are the two things we're looking for.
Nice.
Of course, experience is useful, but I do think kind of, especially in product, it is overrated. You want generic product skills, customer obsession, empathy for the customer, all those pieces. But a lot of these skills are transferable across domains. Having some domain knowledge does help. It kind of helps you hit the road running. But we are primarily looking for kind of intellectual curiosity and grit. But if you want to go deeper, I can kind of double click into some of the other things.
Actually, yes, I'd love to double click on this one, and specifically on you mentioned grit, perseverance, intellectual curiosity, right? When you are interviewing somebody, right, from the resume stage to having those conversations with them, are there any particular ways you found to gauge intellectual interest or perseverance, grit? Is it some stories from the past work they've done or anything? I'd love for you to double click on that stage.
Yeah, sure. I do have a standard set of questions. So what we do is called a full interview loop. So different product managers are assigned to look for different attributes. So first there's a screening round, and then there is a full loop. Typically for junior PMs, APMs, there'll be 3 rounds. So someone is looking for kind of product insight, ability to kind of, have you been curious about why is a product successful, or why is a product failed, or do you have any interest outside of work? Like one candidate I interviewed, we spoke a lot about kind of inline petrol engines versus which are arranged in a V. What is the advantages, disadvantages? One other interview was very interesting. We spoke about James Webb Space Telescope. You're essentially looking for some evidence that people are interested, they're curious, they dive deep, and they're willing to research topics and learn about stuff. And then the other one of my more favorite questions is, tell me about something you did which you think you're most proud of, right? And that question then forces people to kind of talk about their absolute best work if they have a little bit of experience. And then inevitably I'll double click into, okay, tell me when you ran into challenges or you disagreed with some colleague or someone said, no, we should not be doing this. What did you do? How did you persevere? There are just different ways of asking the same question, but you want to see some evidence that people will have the stick with itness to stick with the problem and to iterate until you can actually deliver results until you're successful.
Nice. No, thanks for sharing that. I think that was really, really useful to kick this off. Ashwin, slightly changing tracks, one going deeper into your particular product career. You've stuck around at Gain Credit for over 13 years, I think closer to 14 years, which is an anomaly or an outlier in today's world, especially if you were to ask me. I'd see that maybe in 1 in every 100 or 1 in every 1,000 profiles, right? And I think one thing I'd love to learn is, was this a conscious choice to, stick around? Were you really having lots of fun? But if you can walk us through those years, especially in an era where people jump roles in every 2-3 years, what really prompted you to stick along for that long? And is there any advice for other people in today's market to pick up from here?
Sure. So, I started off as an analyst. I was recruited straight out of college, and I was recruited by this gentleman, Krishna Gopinathan. He is an Indian American, and he is the primary patent holder for a product called Falcon, which is the fraud detection software. It's a neural net based software, which if you've ever swiped the credit card and have you gotten a call from a bank saying, hey, was this you who swiped this card? That is Falcon working in the background to prevent fraud. And so I started off building models. Before it was called machine learning models, we were building models, applying it for the subprime lending space. And we were essentially an analytics services shop. And
was this during the subprime crisis? Because I think you started around that time, 2006 to 2007.
Yes. So this was just before, but we built some models which were predictive models, which was made the portfolio in the US super profitable. We were the most profitable subprime lender of its class. We were providing analytic services to these lenders there. And I was then in 2008 going to leave Gain Credit. I was going to go to IIM to do my MBA. But Krishna then convinced me saying, hey, you just kind of sold the portfolio before the subprime crisis. We've made a bunch of money. And why didn't you go to the UK and you will be a single person on the ground launching our lending business? Lending is super profitable. So let's get into lending ourselves. And we will we'll have the full access to full profit across the value chain as opposed to just providing analytic services. So he convinced me that launching a business will be the best real life MBA I can get. So I went off to London and I was living there for 3.5 years. I was the lone employee and kind of launched our lending business in the UK. And that was a super learning experience, right? It was not called product management at the time. He used to call me, I want a single throat I can catch if there is execution is faltering. So in effect, it was product management, but without the title.
Yeah.
And that was a fun experience. We scaled it from zero to $150 million business and negotiating with vendors there. We did not have a loan management system, so found a loan management system. We had engineers back in Chennai. We did not know how to build a website. A lot of things which you don't know, and you figure it out, right? You face one problem after another, and then if you can consistently solve one after another, you're figuring out problems and you're kind of gathering momentum and moving forward. So that was a super fun experience. And then I prioritized learning and a variety of experiences. I have run operations. We had a 150 FTE call center, which I was running at one point in time. I was managing a £100 million collections portfolio. and then kind of formally launched product management at Gain Credit. Before, I mean, this product management 2006, there were no product management jobs in India. I think the title wasn't available. So just, I think the fun part which kept me at Gain Credit was just a variety of experiences and a lot of ownership given very early. Versus thinking about, okay, do you have the experience, etc. I think the prioritization was, okay, this guy shows evidence of being able to execute. So just keep giving him more until he breaks, and then we can help him. And I think that served me well. And the other thing that kept me there was we kind of become like family over time, and learned a lot. People got very, very close to a lot of people, and a lot of people whom I hold very close to my heart. There are pitfalls to being like family, and I've learned the difference at InCred versus Gain Credit. InCred is much more of a team sport, and it's about winning as a culture. And there, I think, so that, I mean, just the opportunity to work with people whom I liked, and a variety of experiences, and succeeding, delivering results, doing some fun stuff, kind of kept me there. Sorry if that was a long-winded answer, but
yeah, no, it helps us understand that. And is that something, if you got a chance to do this all over again, 2006 to now, is that something that you would do, or would you suggest like, I'm just trying to, help others gain a perspective here. The advantages of compounding, right? When you stay for so many years at a company, you get that advantage. But there are advantages sometimes of, getting different experiences from different companies. No one right way to do it. But if you could walk us through, if we were to look at different perspective, what are some advantages? Would you do something differently?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. You kind of hit the nail on the head. There are advantages, pros and cons to doing both. But for me, what I've realized, and I've seen colleagues who have jumped around every 2 years, even at Gain Credit, kind of the grass always looks greener on the other side. But what I found for myself was, as you stay on longer, I mean, prioritize the joy of working, prioritize learning. But there is a hidden asymmetry. You're building trust in the system. You know how to navigate the system. You know how to get stuff done. So you're building a reputation, and that compounds. And at the right place, I think there is a lot of value in kind of sticking around, because trust in you is compounding, and that exposes you to opportunities which might otherwise not be available. I mean, just imagine in 2008 rather, I am being asked to go and launch a business in the UK. And in 2 years' time, like I was happy kind of just writing code and kind of building predictive models, right? And then I got the same opportunity over and over again. After one business had scaled, I was asked to launch another product. There were some insights, etc. So just your ability to communicate, ability to influence very senior stakeholders also grows. You build relationships in that ecosystem, and all of that compounds. And I have seen the pros and cons, and I've seen colleagues who kind of jumped around and moved to very big companies, and then kind of you're a cog in the wheel. It's hard to kind of build a reputation, develop visibility, etc. So then that leads them to jump again, and you're kind of caught in this trap now where your pay is probably going up, your compensation is probably going up, but are you getting disproportionate rewards for the time spent? Probably not, because you have not built enough trust in the system. Maybe you jump for 20%, 25% every time, but sticking around, I mean, it's a contrarian approach, right? So you have to do what is right, and at that time it felt right. And I think it is analogous to consistency is better than intensity. Being patient works. People these days want instant gratification with reduced attention span. Anything worthwhile takes time. So being consistent and consistently avoiding stupidity leads to great results over versus kind of bright shiny object syndrome, right? Every few months, every few years, let me change things up. And I see a lot of people fall prey to that. But there's no right or wrong. I would say gain credit, I probably stuck around for 1 or 2 years more than I should have. At the end, I was kind of doing a lot more work with the regulator versus doing original product innovation. And that had become kind of quite frustrating.
Life of a fintech professional, right? I think whenever you get into fintech, regulation is part and parcel of the game. How did the opportunity with InCred come through? Then, whenever you were looking to move on, what were your thoughts at that time?
So I had moved to Bangalore. I had married. My wife is from Bangalore. So otherwise, I was in Chennai and London. I was kind of spending time back and forth. I had moved to Bangalore, and I was kind of getting a little sick of the travel, plus spending way too much time with the regulator. So I was looking for kind of changing an ecosystem. I'd spent a lot of time in the US and UK. So, and with India Stack, I was beginning to hear a lot of the cool stuff going on in India. So I was specifically looking to get into the India ecosystem. And InCred called, and one thing led to another. And it's been amazing journey. It's been an amazing journey.
Also, can we safely agree Bangalore is the best among the 3 cities, or do you have other thoughts?
No, I love Chennai. I've stayed there for 7 years.
So, that's a derby that we usually have, right? Bangalore Chennai derby. But one thing would love to go deeper into also is fintech has been hot for a decade, but it's hotter than ever today. You worked across both India and UK, and especially lending, like you mentioned. Lending is one place where a lot of companies, lending is a business model for a lot of companies who haven't figured out their business models yet. What are some interesting insights you found along the way? It's been a good decade and a half here, especially covering markets, right? Do you see India as an emerging market? Do you see UK as a more mature market? What are some opportunities that you see now that you're with InCred growing really, really fast there as well? Anything that you'd like to share on the outlook for 2023, 2024?
Yeah, India has still just got a long way to grow in terms of financial inclusion. The amount of credit available to people is credit penetration is far, far lower than in the UK, than in the US. Just the number of credit cards we have is much, much, much smaller. So a very credit deprived country, and banks historically have had very simplistic credit assessment models, and they've been willing to only lend big ticket loans and fairly simplistic kind of assessment criteria, right? So that's what allows fintechs and NBFCs the right to operate, going into niches which the banks haven't gone into or haven't been able to, etc. So there is just lots of opportunity both in the MSME lending space as well as the consumer lending to build very, very large lending books and kind of succeed. So yeah, I think this is kind of a one in a lifetime opportunity, and just every research survey that comes out every year, written by different banks, by the RBI, everything points to kind of just all the stars are aligned, and if people execute well, I think we have an opportunity to grow very large businesses and also kind of serve the nation, help people get access to credit, in return kind of build their businesses, get opportunities to pick up skills via productive loans, and kind of earn increase their income, etc. So huge difference. Huge opportunity in India compared to UK versus India. There are a lot of very India-centric problems which you have to solve for. Mm-hmm. Lot of people still have, India low trust society, so people are wary of getting defrauded. They also struggle with, historically there have been lots of journeys where there have been a lot of manual checks because people are afraid of systematic fraud, lenders, so the challenge is how can we build more checks so that we are able to lend profitably, but in a manner which is a simplistic, intuitive user experience for customers, where most of these checks get backgrounded. Right now, you have to jump through these hoops, and it's confusing for people. We see evidence. A lot of customers struggle to give permission on the Android app to allow camera to take a selfie, etc. They get stuck for a long time. So India is a very assisted journey. We have telesales folks calling and helping people out as well. But over time, I think more and more innovation on UI and UX will emerge to try and improve conversion, because lesser friction equal to better conversion, and hopefully more innovation to build trust, increase trust. Right now, people rely a lot on physical presence. You want the brand to be there in the city. They rely on someone comforting them by calling them and speaking and explaining the product to them, etc. So as a consequence, InCred has like offices in over 40 cities.
Oh, wow.
Right? So because of kind of low trust and people want that comfort and touch. But to truly solve for credit and to democratize it, we will need to do a lot of work on kind of building the trust digitally. What is the digital equivalent of the offline branch of the telecaller calling and explaining the product? How can you do it seamlessly in a manner, and while reducing the number of hoops people have to jump through? So a lot of innovation, lots of fun stuff happening.
Got it. Do you think that's a generational thing? Do you think it'll still take time? Maybe, the market that we're targeting today is used to offline, used to trust there. But the next few generations have come up digitally, right? Today, if you see the younger kids, they are mobile first. They learn, they earn, they sleep, they eat on the internet, right? So
Yes.
do you think it is a matter of time more than anything?
Yes. I think it is a matter of time. And the digital natives, the segment, the cohort you were referring to, I think those guys those folks don't have trouble. Our customer segments, I think they're also kind of slightly on the older side, not in the 18 to 30 group, probably 35 plus. They tend to struggle, but I think with India Stack, Phone Pay, Google Pay, all these, everyone is getting trained on intuitive UXs, right? And if we can all kind of mimic a lot of what they're learning and apply the same UX journeys, make it intuitive, I think that will all help.
Exactly. Sure. Exactly. Are there some specific opportunities you are excited about? Like you mentioned, in today's world, India definitely, low trust is a problem. But on the other hand, you also see so many fintech startups, right? You name a space and there'll be 5 people trying to solve it today. Do you still see some problems that are relatively untapped that you are excited? Maybe top 3 problems that you think, are relatively still very much open?
Yeah, I mean, so definitely we partner a lot with fintechs, and we extend our balance sheet, help them lend in different niches. So I think there are lots of interesting models for sure which are coming up. But thematically, both consumer lending as well as MSME lending, there's just huge opportunities. I would say some specific untapped segments would be much more fine-grained use case-based lending. So we are now partnering with kind of large consumer marketplaces to lend to, let's say, the sellers on Amazon or sellers on Flipkart and so on. So, and we are now utilizing. Traditionally, they don't have good credit scores, or they've struggled to get loans from traditional avenues. So we are now utilizing kind of what is the cash flows that they are generating on those platforms. All of that data is. So I think more and more of that will grow. I think that's a big opportunity. As electric vehicles takes over, much more infrastructure gets built. Nice. So I think there will be EV-based financing. There are some startups doing some interesting things there. Sweet. So use case-driven opportunities will come in, and then opportunity to kind of embed yourself into that journey will become more and more prevalent.
Nice. Do you also see some downside to lending? Like every startup, I mean, not every, like that would be an exaggeration, but a lot of consumer startups who have distribution, one thing that we see, they might be solving a problem in a specific space, right? It could be mobility, it could be anywhere where they get consumer distribution. One feature that we see coming in is lending in some form or the other, right? Is there any downside to this, or do you see that as a profitable business, whatever you do, is there any thing that you've learned over these many years that, hey, maybe underwriting needs to be really really strong? It looks really easy from the outside, but there is a certain risk there. Is there anything that you've learned over time there?
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you kind of hit the nail on the head. All consumer platforms, they have very sticky use cases which keeps customers coming back again and again, whether it's mobility or e-commerce or food commerce, etc. But that core business does not have great unit economics, right? Only negative economics. So it's not surprising everyone trying to get into lending. But lending is hard to do well. There are lots of moving parts. It's not just optimizing for user experience. Removing some check upfront can affect your risk at the back end, or affect your ability to collect on debt at the back end. So I have seen very very toxic performance when people have tried to optimize for one dimension. So this is the one business where you have to eliminate people, right, as opposed to onboarding as many people as you can.
Right.
And if you don't do it well, very quickly you can lose your shirts. I have seen this in the US. I have seen this in the UK, and I expect to see this in India as well. And I think already playing out for some fintechs.
That would mean NPAs would be higher than what they can manage, right?
Yeah, I mean, so think about it, right? You lend 100 rupees, you're lending at 2%. For every customer who goes bad, where you lost 100 rupees of your principal, you now need 50 other good customers to make up for the loss of one bad. So every one NPA hurts a lot. So risk control is the game.
Correct. And in yours specifically, as part of InCred, is it? I'd love to hear this. I think we hear so much about machine learning, AI, and these technologies picking up so far from our side. On the practical side, have you seen a lot of these applications now start coming into solving some of these problems?
Yeah, we use multiple ML-based scorecards, and that has helped us. I mean, we have delivered kind of better performance than our peers in terms of. So I think there is a lot of investment in continuous improvement there, right? I mean, so I don't know if you know of this guy Frank Rotman. He is ex Capital One, and he is now a VC at QED. So he told me the story, right? So back in the day, in the 1600s, so naval warfare, people would the tactics was two ships would come close to each other. Pirates would try and loot ships, right? So they come close to each other, and then the tactics was grapple and board. So you have to jump over to the ship, and then you're fighting with knives, right? The invention of the cannon changed everything, and it triggered an arms race. Why? Because imagine your cannon can fire 1% longer, has a 1% longer range than my cannon. But that 1% advantage is a 100% win rate, guaranteed, because you are out of range, but you hit all other ships, right? So you just need to continuously invest in trying out different variables, what's predictive, trying some experiments, trying A/B tests, seeing how can you lower friction, but also get incremental predictive power to be able to weed out the bads, which is the customers who will not pay you back, and accept as many goods as possible. So every lender is continuously investing in models, in any tactic which can help you get a small advantage, because that's a huge advantage. And then that translates into you can get better customers. Imagine you can price it better, your losses are lower, you can price it better in the front end, you're attracting better customers to come to you versus go to the competition. So all sorts of advantages become possible, are enabled by you being able to have good risk control.
Nice.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's interesting. Ashwin, quickly, now shifting tracks, we've spoken a lot about your professional journey. We've spoken a lot about fintech in India and UK, but we'd love to get to know you a little better on the professional side now. This section that we have coming up next is lifestyle and happiness, especially for product managers, like in your case, very, very senior. First up, I think today's market is a little different. There are lots of folks looking out for different opportunities. And product management in general is seem to be a dream career for a lot of people. Given where we are at today, and especially for folks looking out for new roles, are there any tips or advices that you'd like to share with them on what they should keep in mind before jumping their next role, before jumping the next ship?
I would say, yes, I mean, product management is a lot of fun because it puts you at the center of the company. You have to interact with all the departments and then work with engineering to kind of build out build out features, build out products, which will then get adoption, which will help the company meet its goals, etc. And you're obviously solving real customer problems. What I would say is come into the profession for the right reasons. You should have thick skin. You should have a high tolerance for ambiguity. You should be willing to write a lot. Writing is a superpower. You should be willing to be misunderstood. You should you will get brickbats from engineers. You'll get brickbats from business. So have thick skin and be willing to kind of listen with empathy, listen with compassion, and always be the customer champion. So it's a lot of fun, but if you're uncomfortable with ambiguity, uncomfortable with an unstructured environment, if you're uncomfortable about kind of thinking about people's incentives, simulating, okay, if I do this, what will the customers react? What will our internal customers react, etc. Then think about what's right for you. I think there is a little bit of introspection. What makes you tick? Does interacting with lots of people, listening to lots of opinions, having to make trade-offs, having no one right answer, does that all excite you? Does that make you feel comfortable, excited to come to work? Or does that scare you? Does that make you uncomfortable? So I think there is a little bit of introspection that's needed before people kind of think about, okay, this is what is for me. And the one other thing I would say is product managers. I think while interviewing, I mean, what are we looking for? We are looking for people who can be thoughtful, who can think carefully, who can research the market, who can be customer obsessed, and who can then kind of write down what we should build and why, articulate the what and the why, right? Versus who are great at kind of giving right answers off the bat, real-time answers. Product manager is paid to think well, so that is what we are looking for. And so yeah, I think I don't know if that answers your question. So
that does, yeah. No, absolutely. I think from the professional side, for people looking out for the next role, I think these are great points to keep in mind. Ashwin, another point that I think while we were researching more about this part, and for folks we spoke to, they mentioned that you were somehow able to manage your work life in a great way. You work for 10 to 12 hours a day, you're into fitness and running. You spend lots of time with family, and you do a lot of things in the community for sustainability to help the planet. So question they and we both had for you was, what is the secret to having 48 hours a day?
Yeah, my wife and my parents will disagree about me spending time. But I mean, this is definitely a problem, right? I mean, everyone has 24 hours. That is the scarce resource. So I have tried lots of things. I think now what I do works for me, and let me share that, right? So I used to maintain to-do lists, and every day I would go to bed saying, okay, look, I had this to-do list of 15 things, but I did only 5, or I did only 6, and would go to bed unhappy about where I was, what I wanted to do versus what I was able to do. And then I heard this podcast. I don't know if you follow Shane Parrish.
Yeah.
Farnham Street founder.
Yeah.
The Knowledge Project.
Yeah.
And I've forgotten the name of the guest he had, and they were talking about this exact challenge, right? And anyway, the short answer was throw away to-do lists, calendarize everything. So right now, my measure of success is, hey, if I have said 9 to 10, I'm going to do this. Did I do it or not? And that's instant feedback. And B, it forces prioritization in itself because there is only 24 hours in a day. So you have to put into the calendar what you want to do at that time. And I try and follow my calendar to the T. And that has been life-changing.
Nice. Do you set up a calendar one day in advance or something? Or how do you?
Typically, yes. In the morning, I will review my calendar. But at the end of work week, I am looking at the whole week calendar and I'm blocking off time. I'm blocking off chunks of time. If you're not protective of your time, everyone will start sending out meeting requests and then all you're doing is jumping from one meeting to another. So I'll block off time for, okay, I want to think about this, or I want to write down strategy, or I want to work with a PM for the next 6 months operating plan and so on. So I will force myself to block off time, and then that time is not available for anyone else.
Nice.
My measure of success is, did I do it at the time or not?
Nice. Do you also put personal stuff on the calendar? Say you had to, like, lunchtime, workout time, shopping, anything. Like, do you also calendar those stuff?
I mean, that has now kind of become a routine. So I try and definitely work out 4 or 5 times a week.
Nice.
So I try to have a routine where I don't have to decide on the morning, ki aaj kya karna hai? What do I need to do today? So Saturday, Sunday is badminton. Mondays is rest day. Tuesday and Thursday I'll go for a run. So it's easy. It's become a ritual. It's automatic. I don't have to decide. So that lowers the friction in your head, I think. So you wake up and you just automatically fall into your routine. So rituals are the other thing which is powerful. Once it becomes part of your identity, once it becomes part of who you are as a person, it becomes very easy to execute. Motivation is overrated. You rise or fall to the level of the systems you have set up for yourself.
Yes, 100% agree. I think it reduces that entire cognitive bias of making a decision every time, right? Once that is set, then you can spend that much energy and time on the other stuff. Completely agree. I think, Ashwin, we spoke a bunch of times around sustainability, and I think we really, really appreciate what you do for the community in trying to, reduce the garbage footprint. And we also did read an article that's come about in the Hindu about how you've been growing this tribe. For busy individuals, any tactical tips that you would like to share on how we can reduce our garbage/carbon footprint on a personal level, and then maybe at a community level?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so in Chennai, we kind of managed to convince 5,000 homes to become zero waste homes. So we reduced their garbage footprint. We were avoiding about 500 tons of stuff going to the landfill. So that was fun. But very easy. Again, systems is what matters. Can you segregate at source? In Bangalore, anyway, it is mandatory. So that's easy. It's becoming more and more. It's also mandated by law in most cities now. So segregate your wet waste and dry waste and reject waste at source. Compost in your backyard or balcony. So go from NIMBY to YIMBY, which is not in my backyard, to yes in my backyard. That's it. That's all you need to do. That will probably reduce 90% of your footprint. And the dry waste which you're putting out, which you're segregated, is worth more to the circular economy workers, and they can sell it and they can increase their living. So in Chennai, we increased the housekeeping staff of my community, their income by about 700 to 800 rupees a month.
Wow.
Because they had better cardboard, not wet with wet sambar on it.
Yeah.
So they were getting a better price, and that made a big difference to the community.
Got it. But Ashwin, one other challenge that I think I personally face is anything that you buy from the market, or a lot of these things are packaged in not recyclable plastic, right? There's nothing I can do about it. Yes, segregation is great, but what do you do when, right from bottles to, suppose I buy a biscuit packet, to anything, any consumable that you buy, some of the packaging that comes through, like polythene bags, yes, I know we can at least carry around bags, but inevitably bottles, bags, etc. that come in plastic. And I think plastic is one of the more dangerous aspects to environment, right? And have you found a way to deal with this?
Yeah, see, I mean, it is better to be 80% eco
Yeah.
versus say, hey, I can't be 100, therefore I will be 0.
Yeah.
So a lot of people don't start because they will object to, अरे ये इसका कर नहीं सकते कुछ भी. I cannot
Right.
do anything about this.
Right.
But start with handling your wet waste, make it into compost. You can grow amazing veggies at home, plants at home, and it's great fertilizer for the plants.
How easy is it to do that bit at home, like growing compost at home?
Very easy. Very easy. 2 minutes of your day every day.
Oh wow. Okay.
Not even 2 minutes. Not even 2 minutes. If you can train your domestic help, they will do it.
Okay.
And so set up systems, right? And in balconies, all you need is 1 square foot of your space.
Okay.
Space. If you follow Shark Tank, there was recently this lady Poonambir Kasturi, right, who was on Shark Tank. Dailydump.org is the website she runs. You can buy products there, which helps you compost it.
Got it. No, thanks for sharing that. Ashwin, one last topic on this section that we'd love to discuss is what is your thoughts on financial freedom? Is this something you've ever thought about? Is there a plan to achieve a certain number? Or do you plan to work for life? How do you look at financial freedom? Is there a particular number that you have in mind? Or like you mentioned, is there a process or a system to it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I believe in systems and I truly believe motivation is overrated, right? So early on, again, I mean, don't underestimate the power of compounding. But at the same time, you need to have the right balance. So I used to aggressively save. And some of my family was sometimes frustrated about the level of aggression of my savings. So you have to strike the right balance. But save first and then spend later is a good mantra to follow. But also strike the right balance, because when you're 40, when you're 50, when you're 60, you don't want to be left with regret. Arey yaar, I should have done that when I was 30 or 35. I should have invested in that experience and so on, right? So, but life and business has ups and downs. So you have to plan for the downs while you're on the up. So always save for a rainy day. Even though you might feel like there will never be a rainy day, it will inevitably occur. So good to have some plans and to consistently save. Develop consistent saving habits, and that will stand you in good stead. Financial freedom for me is kind of time freedom, where I can kind of do what I want. I don't have to think about spending money for my passions. That is financial freedom. But I love working, and I kind of love interacting with people, love making a difference, love solving challenges. So yeah, it's you have to figure out what is right for you.
Got it. Is there a formula? Is there some way that people, like, is there a tactical way to get to, hey, this is how I can get to financial freedom?
A good formula, Warren Buffett advises this, is multiply everything you want to purchase by 200, because that is the eventual cost in terms of your wealth when you purchase something. So, and wealthy and rich are two different things. If you have something expensive, you are actually less wealthy because it's now left your bank account.
Right.
The money is left your bank account to purchase this. But again, at the same time, I come back to this theme of balance. You have to enjoy your life. You have to live your life as well. And so the striking the right balance, working to fulfill your family's aspirations. Once you get married, your partner will have slightly different views on life, and being able to come to the kind of achieve the right middle ground is crucial to kind of live a happy life.
Got it.
Happy and fulfilled life.
Got it. No, thanks for sharing that. Ashwin, we come to the last section of today's discussion. This one's around your product career fit, which is where we talk a little bit about leadership and the myths around product. When we spoke to Yashwant and Pranali, one thing that they really mentioned is while setting up teams, they feel that, you've given them the right amount of freedom while also coming in as a principal manager and providing support whenever necessary. Do you have some leadership mantras that have really helped you? Is there some learnings over time that you've been able to imbibe that you think might be very, very useful for other senior folks tuning in?
Yeah, sure. I mean, again, like I mentioned, you want to hire smart people, and as a leader, your job is to create the ecosystem and get out of the way, right? Let them execute. Because if you are creating lots of processes, that's a tax on that they have to pay, and it removes ownership. Because imagine something did not perform as well, and if I ask you, you'll say, "Hey, I did what you asked me to," right? So you want to push down decision making. You want to enable people at the most junior level to mid levels to feel empowered to take decisions and move forward. You align at the top on, hey, what are we trying to achieve? Align at the vision, align and be stubborn on that. And then you set up some mechanisms. I always tell my team, good intentions don't scale. Everyone has good intentions. So what mechanisms are you setting up to kind of make things repeatable? We, for example, have once a month product health reviews where every product manager has to write a 3 to 4 page document on key performance indicators, metrics, our leading indicators or input metrics like we call them, and how did we do, any lessons learned, any failures, any outages, what did we learn from that, etc. So I think the simplest lesson is for leaders, avoid the temptation to over orchestrate, over organize everything. Everyone is different, so you have to allow different styles to take over and run the show they want to. Ask for some minimal rituals, which is repeatable, which forces kind of them to reflect. Like, for example, the ritual we have once a month, you have to publish results. You have to talk about what impact did you expect, what impact did you deliver, and enable high judgment individuals to take decisions and run on their own. Because otherwise, I am becoming the bottleneck. I can only take a few decisions in a day. I can only be in certain places in a day. You have to allow 1,000 flowers to bloom, right? And then you are also self-selecting smart people who will want to work in that empowered manner. Smart people who value freedom, who value the ownership that is given to them, who also value feeling empowered, who value that feeling of, oh, it's ambiguity, it's ambiguous, I have to figure this out.
Yeah.
Some people will not thrive in that environment. They'll struggle. And those are the people you're then kind of self-selecting out of the org, right? So,
yeah.
Like, I mean, there's a great story, right? Steve Jobs, he was asked, what is your job as CEO? He said, preventing bozos from joining Apple. Bozo prevention is his job. That was his answer. But nice. I think that energy holds.
Yeah. No, really appreciate you being there and sharing this with us. Ashwin, last question for you. What's one thing that you wish people really understood more about product management? You shared with us earlier how product management wasn't even a thing. Like when you got started 2006, you were still doing a lot of stuff that today product managers do. But today we're on the other end of the spectrum, I feel, where everyone wants to get into product management. What is a good reality check for them?
The need to iterate, to be comfortable with your version 0. Of course, I mean, you have to have, good instincts and prioritize the right stuff to do. Once you have the right philosophy, the right mental models, once you build that feature or product, once you actually are in market and you encounter customers, you will be surprised 1,000 different ways. And I learned this even when I was kind of convincing my community to do composting, right? I mean, our iteration 0 was tell everyone to put a compost bin in their balconies. Then there was quality control issues. People were complaining they didn't do it right. So I was having to go and explain to everyone it was not scalable. Then iteration 1, we put segregated bins in the parking lot. Again, quality control issues. Someone will come screw it up. They'll put wet waste into the dry waste bin and so on. So iteration 2 was, okay, whom can I teach and ensure quality control? There is 12 housekeeping staff. So we will teach them and we will get them to go house to house, door to door and collect garbage And so that was the one which then was successful. We then kind of gave them those ice cream bells. We wanted to create anticipation and we wanted to create a routine. And then even then some people would complain ki, oh, this time people are coming, my baby is sleeping at this time, someone is ringing the bell loudly, etc. But so you have to continuously keep your feet to the ground, ear to the ground, listen for feedback and be willing to iterate. There is no such thing as, I mean, there might be for people like Steve Jobs and so on, there is a brilliant insight and then they go and build it. But very rarely does that happen. You have to be willing to persevere. You have to be willing to iterate. And the organization also has to be willing and give the product team that comfort that we will iterate and we will figure things out. The one big failure mode for PMs is they feel like I need to figure everything out. You don't. The organization needs to figure it out. You have to ask the right questions. And for that comes from clarity of thinking and being close to the customers and understanding their behaviors. And then having thick skin. My wife has gotten threats when we were rolling out this composting saying, hey, something is not right. I'm getting a bad smell. I'm going to kind of get your husband beaten if he doesn't stop this and so on. So you learn to get comfortable with that. And when you believe in the right cause, and if you do it right, once the system is there, once people see the rewards, now there's a barter system with nurseries. For the compost that we give out, we get plants back. Now everyone is kind of talking about it on social media, sharing it, etc. We did lots of social proofing stuff as well. Whoever was composting, we would stick a sticker on their door saying, hey, I am proud, I don't trash my city, I compost, I segregate at home. And we were kind of creating social proofing and so on. But again, long-winded way of saying, be thick-skinned and be willing to be misunderstood for long periods of time is a superpower. If you give up at the first instance of trouble, then you're gone, right? And it was, I look back to those days. It was stressful for sure. My wife was like, why are you willing to go through this? But it is worth it in the end, and there's a lot of satisfaction you derive. And when people see the end results, then there is now a there's a propagation of energy, right? And now more and more people are kind of getting into it and so on. So it's worth it in the end. You're on mute. I've lost you.
Yeah. So sorry. Yeah, I was just saying that I think if you believe in the cause, and in the early days it is going to be hard, like you said. But if you can just get through those early days where, like you mentioned, being misunderstood, then I think there will be a time when people can see the results, when they see that is where you need to get to that stage. It often can take 6-12 months to get there. You need to get through that phase, and I think then things become a little easier.
Yeah, but that's where then small wins are super important. Yeah. Especially when you are in a setting where people are critical, ye kyun kar rahe hain, it's a waste of time. I've had people challenging saying, I'm having to segregate after I'm ready for work. I will not segregate. You come and segregate in my house. I will not touch it. I said 5 minutes ago it was food in your hand. Yeah. Now once it's gone into the bin, why can't you just put it into 2 bins, right? So you have to be willing to be patient, but showing some small wins, quick wins, which develops belief is also important. It nice. Gives you some reinforcement, but it also gives the organization reinforcement saying, oh, okay, we are on to something here. So it's all about balance. Nice. If you take too long, your product might get killed. Sure. Small wins and then iterate. Once you have the kernel of an idea, you have to keep iterating until you get
absolutely. Ashwin, thanks so much for sharing this with us. I think I personally learned a lot from today's discussion. It was a good long chat, I think, but ranged all the way from cricket and Rahul Dravid to product management principles, and then a lot more on the personal side. So once again, thanks so much for joining us today. Fantastic pod. And yes, looking forward to, seeing your journey at InCred progress as well. And hopefully, maybe host you on the next season and see how that progresses as well.
Thank you for having me. And thanks for listening to me for close to an hour. So appreciate it.
Thanks, Ashwin.